Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, "Nobody will deprive the American people of the right to vote except the American people themselves. And the only way they could do this is by not voting." Hello, my name is Taylor Falls, and today I'm here to share with you the importance of the right to vote. First, I'm going to start off with a little clip from a campaign called Rock the Vote. They're going to share with you guys the history of how we got our right to vote.
Our country's first election came after fighting for our independence, a fight that cost many lives, but it was worth it because instead of being ruled by a king, we were finally able to make our own laws.
But not everybody was allowed to participate. You see, back then, you had to own property, be white, and a man in order to actually vote. Now, things continued that way for about 80 years, until after the Civil War, when slavery was abolished and all men were given the right to vote.
Now, hold up a minute. Just because we had the right to vote didn't mean we could use it. See, all these new voters wanted to participate, which threatened the people in power and their ability to stay in power. So they tried to stop us with violence and shady new requirements like literacy tests and poll taxes. We had to fight for nearly 100 years before the Voting Rights Act passed, which finally outlawed these dirty tricks.
And you weren't the only ones that had to fight for your right to vote. Somehow women got left out and had to organize and fight state by state, until we took our fight to Washington and finally got our right to vote all across the country. And even once the laws guaranteed every person the ability to vote, you still had to be 21 in most states. So when our government began drafting people under 21 to go fight in Vietnam, they realized their lives were at stake and they had no say. Young people all across the country rose up in protest and demanded that everyone over 18 should be allowed to vote.
Now that we know the history of how we got our right to vote, let's talk about why we should vote. First off, we have that people have died for the right to vote. Soldiers, day in and day out, fight to keep our country free, and they fight for our right to vote. And the people that we elect make huge decisions that shape our lives daily. Now, this is especially in our local and community elections, whether it be your elected officials of city council, county council, or sheriff's department. These local people make a big difference in how our communities function. Women in the U.S. have had the right to vote for less than half of our nation's history. So girls, let's go out and show our right to vote. Let's vote. Now, if your candidate wins by a landslide, to the critics, it's unlikely that voting machine problems can change the vote. Also, we're a government of the people by the people. So we, as voters, can decide who we want to be in our government, who we want making our laws and passing our laws, and people in much of the world envy our ability to vote freely. We are lucky to be able to vote. Most people around the world don't have this privilege. And lastly, voting is even better than planting a tree and expressing hope for the future. So you can plant a tree here and there, but those trees can all be cut down. When you vote, that vote cannot be taken from you. Here's a few cartoons on why voting is important. So this one kind of reiterates the fact that if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. And this one talking again about those fallen soldiers who fought for our right to vote and for our freedom. This man is asking the fallen soldiers, how can we ever repay you? And their response would be, by voting. By using our rights and our freedoms they fought so hard for us to have. And lastly, your vote is your voice. If we don't go out and vote and educate ourselves on who we're voting for, we will never be heard. So in closure, I want to leave you guys with knowledge is power. Therefore, you have the power to determine your future. I encourage, and I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to educate yourself and educate your friends and family on which candidates are running this year, or your education and your knowledge on these candidates will be able to determine your future.